Deep beneath the sands of Arabia, there's a parable not preached in any church of forgotten parables so explosive, it was scrubbed from history. What if I told you the Cave of Islam hid not just ancient artifacts, but a suppressed gospel truth? A revelation so profound it rewrites everything we thought we knew about faith, history, and the hidden parables of Jesus himself. This isn't just archaeology, it's a spiritual earthquake. And the clock is ticking before someone buries it again. The Bedouin who found it called it Kaf al-Mansi, the Cave of the Forgotten. Inside, researchers uncovered scrolls that shouldn't exist. Texts referencing an untold parable of Jesus. One that early church fathers tried desperately to erase. The writing matches no known dialect, yet somehow, you can read it anyway. The words rearrange themselves in your mind, unlocking memories you didn't know you had. It is like hearing God whisper directly into your bones. But here's what chills me. The scrolls aren't paper. They're made of a material that reacts to human touch warming. Glowing, and in some cases bleeding ink that reforms into new symbols before your eyes. This story will vanish faster than you can share it. If you're ready to learn the parable they never wanted found, smash that like button. It tells YouTube this truth needs to be seen. Subscribe now, because what comes next isn't just history. It's a revelation that's been waiting 2,000 years to meet you. And trust me, when you see the final scroll, you'll understand why someone tried to bury this in a desert cave forever. ***, deep in the arid mountains of Saudi Arabia, where the wind howls through narrow passes like a whispered secret. There's a cave no one was supposed to find. Locals called it Kaf al-Gharebda, Forgotten Cavand. For centuries, it was just another shadow in the rocks. Until last year, when a Bedouin shepherd chasing a stray goat stumbled upon something that shouldn't have been there. A narrow fissure, half hidden by rubble, with cold air seeping out like a breath from the past. When he squeezed inside, the beam of his flashlight caught what looked like markings on the walls. Ancient, deliberate, and not Arabic. The Saudi government sealed the area within hours, but not before rumors spread. A team of archaeologists was quietly assembled, flown in under the cover of night. What they found inside wasn't just old inscriptions or broken pottery. There were boxes heavy, iron reinforced, sealed with wax that hadn't been touched in over 1,000 years. And the symbols carved into them? They matched fragments of a lost language scholars had only seen in scattered references from 8th century texts. One of the researchers, Dr. Elias Mansour, later told me it was like walking into a vault God forgot to lock. But here's where things get complicated. The boxes weren't empty. Inside were sheets of parchment, perfectly preserved, covered in dense script no one could immediately decipher. And then there was the other thing, a small circular device made of a metal that didn't tarnish, resting atop the documents like it had been placed there yesterday. When one of the team members reached for it, the temperature in the cave dropped. That's when the recordings from their headset feeds cut out. The next 72 hours, classified. Whatever they found in that cave, it wasn't just history. Waiting. When the archaeologists finally emerged from the cave. They weren't the same. Dr. Mansour refused to speak about what happened in those missing hours. But his assistant, a grad student named Layla, who'd been monitoring the equipment outside, told me their voices over the comms had turned frantic, then eerily calm. The last thing she heard before the signal died was Mansour muttering, "It's not a language, it's a map." By the time military personnel arrived, the team had already sealed the boxes and loaded them into a reinforced truck. Oh, no. One touched the metal device. 2 weeks later, the parchment pages were sent to a high-security lab in Riyadh. Script, once decoded, didn't match any known dialect, not even Nabatean or early Aramaic. But one phrase kept repeating, Al-Hafid al-Montazar, the waiting guardian. Historians are still debating whether it's a title, a warning, or something else entirely. Meanwhile, the metal object, it vanished. Officially, it's under analysis. Unofficially, source inside the lab told me it reacted to something of frequency, maybe when scanned. And for 3 seconds, every camera in the room blacked out. Now, here's the part that keeps me up at night. Last month, A Bedouin trader claimed he saw a man in a long, outdated robe standing at the cave's entrance at dawn just watching. When the trader approached, the figure turned and walked straight into solid rock. No one believes him, of course. But I checked the satellite images from that morning. There was a heat signature near the cave. It wasn't there an hour later. Whatever's buried in that mountain, it's not just old secrets. It's awake, and I don't think it wants to be found. Asterisk, asterisk. The Saudi government has since declared the entire mountain range a restricted zone. But that hasn't stopped the whispers. A retired intelligence officer, who for obvious reasons won't let me use his name, told me that within days of the discovery, a team of specialists from outside the archaeology department arrived. Their expertise, unconventional materials, whatever they were looking for, it wasn't just historical. One of them allegedly asked, "Has it made contact yet?" Before being swiftly silenced, the cave's coordinates were scrubbed from official records, but satellite imagery shows new construction, a low, windowless facility built into the mountainside. And the only vehicles going in? Black SUVs, always at night. Then there's the parchment. A linguist working on the translation, who spoke to me on condition of anonymity, said, one page contained a series of numbers that didn't match any known calendar or numbering system. But when they ran it through a decryption algorithm, the output was a set of geographic coordinates, pointing to 3 other remote locations: a cliffside in Yemen, a ruined temple in Iran, and an unmarked spot in the Rub al-Khali Desert. The kicker: each site has local legends about doors that shouldn't be opened. Coincidence? Maybe, but the linguist hasn't been seen at work since sharing that detail. And the metal device. That's where things get really strange. A technician who supposedly handled it claimed it was warm to the touch, not like sunlight, but like something alive. When placed near the translated parchment, the symbols on the page began to ... shift, not fade, not smudge, rearrange themselves, as if responding. The last entry in the technician's log read, "Subject emits harmonic resonance at 18.5 hertz. Recommend immediate." The rest was redacted. I don't know what's happening out there, but I do know this: whatever's in that cave wasn't meant to stay hidden forever. And whatever it's waking up, it might not be ready for it. Asterisk, asterisk 3. Days ago, something changed. The military cordon around the cave doubled overnight, and eyewitnesses reported a convoy of unmarked trucks leaving the site at high speed, their cargo hidden under thick tarps. But here's what they didn't hide: the sound. A local farmer, living 5 miles away, recorded it on his phone, a low, pulsing hum that made his livestock panic. When he played it back, the audio file corrupted itself after 2 listens. The weirdest part is that same hum was described in 9th century Persian manuscripts as the song of the sleeping watchers. Coincidence? I'm starting to think there's no such thing. Meanwhile, one of the archaeologists from the original team has broken their silence. Dr. Rania Fadel, who specializes in ancient metallurgy, checked herself into a private hospital. In Dubai last week, when a colleague visited, she kept repeating one phrase: "It wasn't a cave, it was a cage," before security escorted the visitor out. They noticed something odd. Fadel's right hand, the one that had touched the metal device, was wrapped in bandages. ... But the shape underneath wasn't quite right. Too many joints. The hospital denies she's even a patient. I've been piecing this together for weeks, but the full story? It's bigger than me. That's why I need your help. If you're as hooked on this mystery as I am, hit subscribe below, because what comes next? You won't want to miss it. The deeper I dig, the clearer it becomes. Someone doesn't want this truth getting out. But between us, I think it's too late. And that cave is walking now. And it's leaving a trail of dead signals, empty facilities, and terrified witnesses across the desert. The real question is, what happens when it reaches civilization? Want to be the first to know when this story breaks wide open? Subscribe now, before the next update disappears. Asterisk. The first video footage emerged yesterday. Shaky, dark, and clearly shot without authorization. It shows the interior of the cave's antechamber, now lit by industrial work lights that cast long shadows across walls covered in those unreadable symbols. But here's what made my blood run cold. The symbols were glowing, faint pulsating blue light emanating from within the stone itself, synchronized with that same haunting hum from the recordings. The camera pans to show a team in hazmat suits carefully scraping samples from the walls until one researcher stumbles back, pointing at something just off camera. The last frame before the video cuts out, shadow moving against the light's direction. I tracked down the soldier who leaked the footage, or at least I tried to. Captain Yusuf El Marzouk was stationed at the perimeter guard post until 48 hours ago. When I finally reached his cousin, he told me Yusuf had been transferred to an undisclosed medical facility. After reporting nightmares so vivid, they left physical marks. He kept saying the symbols were singing to him, the cousin whispered, before abruptly ending our call. That they showed him cities buried deeper than the cave. The military denies any personnel transfers, but satellite heat signatures show a medical helicopter leaving the site at exactly 3:17 a.m. local time, the witching hour in ancient Arabic traditions. Now comes the most disturbing development. This morning, 3 of the original Bedouin shepherds who first avoided the cave packed up their families and fled across the Jordanian border. When border agents asked why they were abandoning generations of grazing lands, the oldest among them simply pointed west toward the mountains and said, "Can't you hear it?" The humming stopped. Weather stations confirm an unusual atmospheric pressure change centered on that exact mountain range. And for exactly 17 minutes last night, between 2:43 and 3 a.m., every seismic monitor within 200 kilometers registered absolute silence. Not a single vibration, as if the earth itself was holding its breath. Asterisk, asterisk, the silence broke this morning with a sound that shattered windows in villages 30 miles away. Witnesses describe it as 1,000 mirrors cracking at once, followed by a deep, resonant tone that made the sand dance across the desert floor. Satellite imagery shows the mountain above the cave is now different. The rock face has developed strange geometric patterns, too precise to be natural erosion, forming what looks like concentric circles radiating outward from cave entrance. A geology professor I consulted said the formation would normally take centuries to appear. These showed up in less than 6 hours. Dr. Fatal has disappeared from her supposed hospital room. Security footage shows her walking out calmly at 3:33 a.m., her bandaged hand leaving faint smudges on the door handle that glowed under UV light. The night nurse on duty claims Fidel whispered something to her in a language that moved like snakes between words, before vanishing down the stairwell. Here's the chilling part. When investigators checked Fatal's apartment, they found every mirror covered with sheets, except one. The bathroom mirror showed a reflection of the room that didn't match reality. In the reflection, the walls were covered in the same symbols from the cave, pulsing gently. The military has stopped pretending this is a routine operation. This afternoon, they began evacuating a 50-mile radius under the guise of chemical spill containment. But the troops I've spoken to say their orders include shoot in sight, protocols for anything emerging from the cave perimeter. One young private, voice shaking, told me his thermal goggles picked up humanoid shapes moving through the mountain itself last night. Figures that walked through solid rock like it was mist. When I asked what command said about it, he laughed bitterly. They told us we saw nothing. Then they took our goggles. The mountain is quiet again now. Too quiet. And in the dead air, I can't shake the feeling that something is listening. Asterisk, asterisk, the evacuation zone has expanded again. What began as 50 miles is now nearly 200, with military checkpoints turning civilians away with terse warnings about geological instability. But the geologists I've spoken to say the opposite is true. The mountain hasn't been this seismically quiet in recorded history. It's as if the entire formation is ... waiting. Satellite thermal scans show something even more disturbing. A perfect circle of absolute zero temperature at the cave mouth, unaffected by the blistering desert heat. Physics says this shouldn't be possible. And yet, when a drone was sent to investigate yesterday, His final transmission wasn't static. It was 3 seconds of crystal clear audio. A voice whispering in reverse Arabic saying the keys were never lost, just forgotten. Local wildlife is behaving strangely. Bedouin traders report entire herds of goats kneeling toward the mountain at dawn, their eyes reflecting light they shouldn't catch at that angle. A wildlife biologist who examined one of these animals found its pupils had reshaped themselves, no longer round, but angular, matching the cave symbols. The goat died peacefully during examination, its last breath forming visible frost in 40-degree heat. When the biologist tried to photograph the phenomenon, every image came out blurred, except one, a single clear shot showing what looks like a human handprint burned into the goat's flank. The fingers were too long. The pattern matches nothing in forensic databases. I've just received a message from someone claiming to be part of the original research team. The email arrived at exactly 3:33 a.m. with no IP trace, containing just 7 words. They're not coming out. They're waking up. Attached was a single audio file, 33 seconds of that now familiar hum, but with something new underneath. A rhythm, a heartbeat. When played backward, the audio resolves into a chillingly familiar voice reciting the Shahada. But the pronunciation is all wrong, ancient, predating modern Arabic by centuries. The file self-deleted after one play. Whatever sleeps in that mountain, it's speaking now. And I'm not sure we want to understand what it's saying. Asterisk, asterisk, the first. Photographs surfaced this morning taken by a satellite passing over the restricted zone. It shows the cave entrance now perfectly circular, its edges smoothed as if melted by unimaginable heat. But the truly disturbing detail, the shadows. At precisely noon, when the sun should be directly overhead, the cave casts a shadow stretching nearly half a mile westward, a physical impossibility. Analysts who enhance the image notice something else. The shadow isn't empty. There are shapes within it all, slender figures frozen mid-stride, their outlines warping the surrounding light. The image was classified within hours. Not before one observant technician noted the figures appeared to be walking out of the cave in the shadow's projection, while thermal scans showed nothing actually moving inside. A linguistics professor from Cairo University who insisted on anonymity contacted me with a breakthrough. Those cave symbols aren't just writing, they're musical notation. When translated into sound waves, they produce a melody that matches exactly the hum recorded near the site. But here's what chills me. When played at certain frequencies, the vibrations cause organic matter to ... react. Leaves exposed to the recording developed vein patterns, matching the cave symbols within hours. Lab rats subjected to the tones began stacking objects in precise geometric formations before expiring peacefully. Their final brain scans showed activity in regions associated with religious ecstasy. The professor's last message read, "This isn't archaeology anymore. We're dealing with a technology that rewrites biology." Then his phone went dead this afternoon. Communication with the military cordon went silent for exactly 33 minutes. When contact resumed, the soldiers reported nothing unusual, just routine patrols. But their biometric data tells a different story. Every single man stationed at the inner perimeter registered identical heart rates during that blackout period. Exactly 33 beats per minute, perfectly synchronized. No variation, no human fluctuation, like metronomes. The base psychologists who reviewed the data resigned immediately, muttering about choral heartbeats and high physiology. As night falls over the desert, the hum has changed pitch again. It's lower now, more resonant. And if you listen carefully, you can almost make out words forming in the spaces between tones. Ancient words, words that taste like copper and myrrh when you whisper them aloud. Asterisk. The desert sands are singing. As of dawn this morning, travelers reported the dunes themselves vibrating at that now familiar frequency. Grains of sand arranging themselves into perfect geometric patterns that last exactly 33 seconds before collapsing. A team of physicists who raced to document the phenomenon made a terrifying discovery. The sand isn't just moving, it's counting down. The patterns grow more complex with each passing hour, evolving from simple circles to intricate mandalas that match the cave symbols exactly. The lead researcher collapsed after staring at the patterns for too long, murmuring about cities made of sound before security forces whisked him away. His final whispered warning: they don't live in the cave lives in them. All communications from within the quarantine zone have taken on a strange quality. Voices on military radios develop a faint echo, as if the speakers are being subtly harmonized. The most disturbing transmission came last night, a guard's desperate whisper about the smiling figures that walk through walls at the edge of vision. When his unit went to investigate, they found his body camera still recording. The final frames show his own reflection in a polished metal surface, still moving and smiling after his physical body had gone still. The medical examiner's report lists cause of death as acute cellular reorganization. His DNA had rewritten itself in repeating patterns matching the cave symbols. This story is unfolding faster than anyone. If you're still reading this, you need to understand what happens next will change everything. Hit subscribe now because the next update can't wait. The pattern completes at dawn tomorrow, and whatever's coming, it's almost here. I've secured footage that will blow this story wide open, but it won't stay online for long. Those who are watching know the signs, the hum that follows you after hearing it, the dreams of blue-lit corridors, the sudden ability to understand languages you've never studied. This isn't just a story anymore. It's happening to all of us. Subscribe below before the signal changes for good. Asterisk, asterisk. You know that feeling when your phone picks up interference right before a storm? That's what's happening across the entire region. Now, but instead of static, it's that damn hum. My contact at the telecom company just showed me the data. Every cell tower within 100 miles is transmitting some kind of secondary signal buried in the carrier wave. When we isolated it, the audio waveform formed perfect recreations of the cave symbols. And get this, people are starting to dream these patterns. A nurse in Riyadh reported 6 patients last night, all strangers, describing identical dreams of a door opening inward. The kicker? They all woke at exactly 3:33 a.m. with nosebleeds and temporary tattoos of the symbols on their palms. The ink, not ink at all. Their own blood had rearranged under the skin. The military's last public statement was 48 hours ago. Since then, all we've got are rumors from desert nomads who made it past the checkpoints. They talk about a new star hovering over the mountain. Not a helicopter, not a drone, but something that pulses in time with the hum. One old Bedouin woman claims her shadow stopped matching her movements yesterday. It waits until I turn away, she said, then it moves on its own. When I asked where it goes, she just pointed toward the mountain and made a sign against the evil eye I'd never seen before, fingers forming one of those damned symbols. I'm writing this from a safe house. Outside the quarantine zone, the Wi-Fi keeps cutting out and my laptop camera keeps activating on its own. 3 times now, I've caught glimpses of something ... moving behind me in the frame. Always when the hum reaches that certain pitch that makes your teeth vibrate. Whatever's happening, it's not contained anymore. The cave was just the beginning. Those symbols, they're not warnings, they're invitations. And something is accepting. Asterisk, asterisk, the power just came back on after 33 minutes of complete silence. No generators. No batteries. Nothing worked during that time. But here's what's really got me shaking. When the lights returned, I found my notebook, filled with pages of those symbols. In my own handwriting. The last thing I remember is hearing 3 distinct knocks on my door right before the blackout started. Security footage shows my door never opened, but there are 3 perfect fingerprints, burned into the peephole glass. They're testing them now. But I already know what they'll find. The ridge patterns form those same damned symbols. Dr. Friend just risked his career to send me something. It's a brain scan from one of the quarantine soldiers. The frontal lobe shows abnormal activity forming, you guessed it, the cave patterns. But here's the kicker. When they showed the scan to another patient, his identical twin brother who's been safe in London this whole time, London brother's subsequent scan showed the exact same anomalies developing in real time. No contact between them, no explanation. Just that relentless hum vibrating through everything, connecting us all like some kind of ... antenna. They're calling it the echo now. People are reporting hearing their own voices whispering back to them from empty rooms. Always 3 seconds delayed, always saying something slightly ... wrong. My neighbor swears his echo told him. The water remembers before his tap started. Running black liquid that evaporated before it could be collected. The lab tech who analyzed it said the residue wasn't water at all, but some compound that made their machines display equations no one could comprehend before the screens cracked. I'm watching my reflection as I write this, and I swear it just blinked. I finally understand what the symbols mean. It came to me last night in a dream, so vivid I woke with my sheets soaked in salt water. Impossible, since we're hundreds of miles from the coast. The symbols aren't a language or a map, they're a countdown. And based on the rate they've been, appearing across the region in crop patterns, in the veins of leaves, even in the cracks of drying concrete, I calculate we have exactly 33 hours left. The cave was never the source, just the first domino to fall. A researcher who escaped the quarantine zone showed me footage of what's happening at ground zero. The mountain itself is unwinding, stone flowing like liquid in perfect geometric spirals, revealing something massive and metallic beneath the surface. Ancient beyond comprehension, yet humming with energy. The government has stopped pretending. Emergency broadcasts are preparing evacuation routes, but we both know nobody's leaving. Not really. Because the whispers aren't just in our heads anymore. They're coming from our screens, at our radios, even the spaces between heartbeats. My contact at the observatory says the night sky looks wrong now. Stars shifting into those same familiar patterns, and the moon. Christ, the moon's surface is developing faint but unmistakable etchings, visible even through amateur telescopes. Whatever slept beneath that mountain isn't just awake, it's calling home. This will be my last update. Before the end, I've secured transportation to the site because someone needs to witness this. The dreams have shown me what comes next. Not destruction, but transformation. The symbols are rewriting reality itself, and we're just the ink. If you don't hear from me again, look to the eastern horizon at dawn tomorrow. That's when the final symbol completes. That's when we'll finally meet what's been waiting all these centuries. God help us. I think it's going to be beautiful, asterisk. I'm standing at the edge of the excavation site now, watching as the last remnants of the mountain peel away like petals from some colossal stone flower. What's being revealed beneath isn't a ship or a temple, it's something far older, far stranger. A vast obsidian monolith covered in pulsating symbols, each one alive with that same eerie blue light. But here's what chills me most. It's not alien. The designs match perfectly with fragments of pre-Islamic relics found across the region, artifacts dismissed for centuries as heretical geometry. We were wrong. This isn't an invasion, it's a homecoming. The researchers still on site. Those who haven't fled or fallen to their knees in awe say the monolith is responding to us. Not to our tools or scans, but to us. The symbols rearrange themselves when approached, as if tailoring a message for each observer. One linguist, her eyes wide with terror and wonder, whispered that it's teaching us, not a language, but a new way of seeing. She held up her hand, and for a moment, shadow didn't match its formed tone of the symbols, perfect and glowing, before dissolving back into shape. It's not changing the world, she said. It's reminding the world what it used to be. And then there's the sound. No, not a sound. Silence so deep it hums. When you stand close enough, you realize the blue light isn't just light, it's vibration given form. The air itself thickens with it, carrying whispers in a tongue that feels familiar, like a childhood lullaby half remembered. I don't know what happens next. The military's barricades won't hold. The world's governments can't contain this. But for the first time since this began, I'm not afraid. The symbols aren't warnings. They're an invitation to remember, to awaken, to step into whatever comes next. And God help me. I think I'm going to say yes. Asterisk, asterisk, as I stand here before the monolith. The truth finally washes over me like dawn breaking after a lifetime of darkness. The symbols weren't warnings or invitations, they were memories. The artifact isn't alien or divine, it's ours. It's a relic from a time before history, when humanity understood the language of the universe itself. The humming. It's the sound of the world remembering. People across the globe are waking up with the symbols etched into their skin, whispering ancient words they've never learned, realizing, as I have, that we've always known this song. The monolith isn't changing us, it's helping us. Remember what we truly are. To every one of you who followed this journey, thank you. You weren't just spectators. You were part of this awakening. The way these symbols spread, the way this story resonated, that wasn't coincidence. It was proof that we're all connected in ways science can't yet explain. So do me a favor, share this with someone who needs to hear it. Comment what the symbols made you feel, what strange coincidences you've noticed since this story began. Because this isn't just my discovery anymore, it's ours. The screen's about to change. The video you'll see next isn't one I filmed, it's what the monolith showed me. The truth, in its purest form. Watch closely. Listen with more than your ears. And whatever you do, don't look away when the symbols start to move. This is just the beginning. Asterisk.